beer, it's good for you.
Hello and welcome to the video. Within this two-part video series we're diving into the fascinating history of home beer brewing. We'll explore the laws that have had an impact on it around the world and then highlight the key events, innovations and products that have helped shape the home beer brewing market to the present day. This first video starts in ancient times and takes us to 1996. The second video will be released a week after this one and will bring history up to date. So let's get to it. Evidence of home brewing dates back to ancient civilizations like the Sumerians and the Egyptians, where brewing was often a communal activity. At this point there were probably no restrictions other than ingredients and your imagination. Knowledge was also in its total infancy, as basic things like yeast were not known about, so perhaps the fermentation was believed to be something magical. Either way, what was produced was good enough that this continued. The earliest documented use of hops in brewing dates back to the 9th century in Germany, where monks started incorporating them as a natural preservative and flavouring agent in their beers. By the 13th century, hop cultivation had evolved into a major industry throughout the whole of Europe, with hop gardens being established across the continent. Then in 1516 we saw new laws for brewing in Germany. The beer purity law mandated that only water, barley and hops could be used in beer brewing. This indirectly limited German homebrewers who wanted to experiment with different ingredients like fruit, for example. The vital role that yeast plays was not recognised at this time, but was thankfully added later on. German brewers, including those in Bavaria that failed to adhere to the purity law, may sell their beverages but may not call them beer. Since this time further changes have been made to this law, and even in the modern time of 1987, the European Court made some rulings around what could be legally sold and called beer. This law is now considered the world's oldest, still valid, food safety and consumer protection legislation. During the Dark Ages time period, there is evidence of quake yeast being used in Norway for farmhouse beer brewing. In addition to this, using genomic data, researchers have traced the common ancestor of industrial beer and wild yeast to the 1500s, before the formal discovery of microbes. So clearly yeast was being reused at this time by brewers on all levels, even if they did not fully realise it, which separated yeast from nature and allowed it to evolve within the brewery. In 1642, pale ale malt was first made in England using a kiln and coke as the heat source for drying rather than wood. However, it was not until 1703 that the term pale malt or pale ale malt would be used for malt created using this method. During the 1700s, the first commercial production of yeast has been recorded. Before this time, breweries and homebrewers simply created their own via beer fermentations. In the 1780s and 1790s, the development of compressed yeast began to appear in England, Germany and the Netherlands. In the early 1800s, Pilsner malt was born in Pilsen, a city in Bohemia at the time, which is now a part of the Czech Republic. Inspired by the British innovations and techniques in malting, Bavarian brewer Joseph Groll created what still stands as the lightest malt available, which he named Pilsen, known to us in English these days as Pilsner malt. Using this malt he also invented the light lager style of Pilsner. In 1818, in England, Daniel Wheeler patented the indirect kilning method, allowing hot air to circulate around grain for even drying. This drum kilning technique produced a lighter coloured malt without a smoky flavour, which became popular with the rapidly expanding British beer brewing industry. This innovation marked the beginning of the distinction between traditional floor malted ale malts and the higher volume malts used for industrial lagers. Concurrently, the rise of large breweries spurred the industrialization of malting and increased production capabilities. By the late 1800s, pneumatic malting had been developed and gained commercial traction. Two Belgian engineers, Galland and Saladin, are recognized as the pioneers of modern malting equipment. In 1873, Galland introduced the first aerated rectangular boxes, followed by Saladin's turning machines in the 1880s. Saladin boxings remain in use today, primarily upgraded to stainless steel though, with the introduction of circular vessels becoming more common since the 1980s. Within the United States in 1919, the 18th Amendment banned the production, sale and transportation of alcohol. Home brewing was effectively outlawed in the US, pushing it underground. It is suspected though that this led to more and more individuals brewing beer at home, as well as those producing moonshine at home too. How much of this was just for their own consumption and how much was for greater profits is unknown, but invention is the mother of necessity. In 1933, the US had the repeal of Prohibition. The 21st Amendment allowed homebrewing again, but only with very strict limits. Homebrewers were permitted to produce up to 100 gallons per year, which is just over 378 litres. However, this was also subject to federal taxation, which put homebrewing legally on the back burner. In 1963, homebrewing became legal in the United Kingdom. Before this time, homebrewing was either totally illegal or required an expensive government licence. Only 250 in the entire UK had this licence by the year of 1962. In the UK, the popularity of homebrewing grew greatly in the 1970s, and by 1978 there were over 2 million homebrewers, which has rapidly increased further as the years have gone on. I guess most people know worldwide that us Brits love a beer or 10, right? During the 1960s, soon after legalization in the UK, the first ever all-in-one malt extract homebrew beer kit products were released. These were offered in various styles popular in the UK at the time, which included pale ale, stout, bitters and barley wine. Some of these original brands are still trading today, like Geordie, who were big enough at the time to afford mainstream television advertising of their kits in the early days. These kits in general made it far easier for beginners to start homebrewing without the need for specialised or expensive equipment, leading to an upsurge in homebrewing. During this time, homebrewing supplies were often purchased at your local Boots the Chemist, who still exists today but do not sell such products any longer. It has to be said that even by the 1990s these kits were not producing a particularly good beer though, unlike the kits that are available today. Much has progressed for sure. In 1972, the Australian government also made homebrewing fully illegal by repealing the law that made homebrewing of anything but the weakest of beers illegal. Then in 1978, President Carter signed a law allowing homebrewing without any federal restrictions or taxation. This was certainly a game changer for homebrewers, inspiring a renaissance in craft brewing when this law came into place in 1979. Naturally, this led to demand for new beer-related products, like the one you can see here, where you can buy an extract kit and make 10 gallons of beer for just $1, just by adding water and yeast. Amazing. During the 1980s, the craft beer movement gained momentum, leading to changes in laws worldwide, including deregulation of homebrewing in many more countries around the world, creating demand for homebrewing-related products on a more global scale than ever before. A potentially controversial topic, but according to my research it is believed that the brew-in-the-bag method actually started during the 1980s on a small scale in England, and then in the 1990s and 2000s became much more popular, especially in Australia during these later years. Though some believe this method was invented in Australia. Whichever is true, it has remained popular to this day and was the first all-in-one brewing method. Brew-in-a-bag offers several advantages, including simplicity, cost-effectiveness, space efficiency and time savings, making it accessible to brewers on all levels. As homebrewing continues to evolve, brew-in-a-bag remains a popular method that balances tradition with modern convenience. In the year of 1984, The Complete Joy of Homebrewing was published by Charlie Papazian, becoming a cornerstone for aspiring brewers at the time. This book has now seen 4 editions, the latest was released in September of 2014. Charlie was also the founder of the American Homebrewers Association, which was founded in 1978 and is now under the umbrella of the Brewers Association. In 1990, a surge in specialty homebrew supply stores began and provided essential ingredients and equipment and fostered a local community of homebrewers where these shops popped up. This also led to custom products being developed and more mass-produced products than ever to assist in brewing and fermentation and more. By 1996, the internet had started to gain popularity with 45 million using it worldwide. This allowed for greater brewing information sharing, and internet stores for homebrewers started being created, which gave more and more people access to everything they needed for homebrewing, giving the industry a huge boost. By the year 2000, there were 407 million internet users in 218 of the 246 countries in the world, which pushed homebrewing to further heights. By this time there was a rise of online forums and communities that offered a platform for sharing tips, recipes and experiences. This now almost concludes part 1 of this 2-part mini-series. I do hope that you have found this as fascinating as I have. Do let myself and the community know in the comment section of this video. Also, please do let us know if there's anything that you believe has not been mentioned that is noteworthy within the time period of this first part. Naturally, I have not included every single thing, just key highlights. Otherwise this could have easily been a 5-part series or more rather than a snappy 2-part series. Part 2 will be released a week after this one, so if you're watching this video after this point, then you'll be able to move straight into Part 2 now, which covers 1997 to the present day, which includes lots of groundbreaking innovations, events and much more. I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!